Welcome to Smarking Down Last Dance. I'm your host, Brother Bob. With me, as always, is JR for these Last Dance episodes. Dude, great episode last night, JR.
Yes, it was.
We have so much to cover. They fit into those two episodes. Everything from the second championship to the history of Air Jordans to the Dream Team to the third championship to Michael Jordan's gambling allegations to their feud with the Knicks. I mean, they fit as much as possible into those two episodes as I think anybody could.
Yeah, there was a lot, and I was wanting more afterwards.
Yeah, like we said last week, man, those they run really well. They're really well edited together to where a 2-hour program feels like it just flies by. And I appreciate that. I guess we'll start where they started, man. Air Jordans. You are the Air Jordan aficionado on this channel. Give everybody your thoughts on the first Air Jordans, and like the history of the brand.
Well, I don't know. I'm flattered you call me an aficionado.
I've seen your closet, yo.
I don't have that many, to be honest. So I have a mixture of Nikes in there, but I haven't counted how many Air Jordans I have.
Okay, so compared to the super fans who buy entire stores and deck them out with every Air Jordan, you are not. But compared to the average person, you are an Air Jordan aficionado.
I'm very picky about what model I buy. So
yeah. So I mean, what did you think? Like the Air Jordan 1s, like is that not like the most iconic shoe? Like, can you think of a shoe more iconic? Maybe the Reebok Pump, but seriously,
the Reebok Pump.
I don't know. That's an iconic shoe. What other shoe besides?
Just disrespected.
I'm saying in the cat. I didn't say better. Converse. Well, I mean Chuck Taylor Converse. Okay, that's in.
Bands.
The Chuck Taylors are in that conversation, but that Reebok Pump is one.
Adidas Shell Toes, Adidas Superstars.
Okay.
Those are like your staple.
Can you imagine had Jordan signed with Adidas?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're kicking themselves now. But thank God for Jordan's mom.
I know, right?
In the SmackDown said, you're going to go to that meeting and listen.
Yep. Yeah, no, the Air Jordan 1 is such an iconic shoe that when you look at pop culture outside of basketball, that shoe is featured all over the place. The Air Jordan is the iconic pop culture shoe. Everything from rappers like Nelly, musicians like Miley Cyrus who did songs about the Air Jordan. You got Spider-Man, one of the three most iconic superheroes in history, rocks a pair of Jordan 1s. It is an iconic shoe, and it's something that I think we need to celebrate. I am glad they updated them, though.
Yeah. They will never go out of style. That's why Jordan brand keeps pumping them out in different colorways. And like, what more can you do with the Chicago colorway? They're like, well, we're gonna make the toe a little bit red in this area and release it, and it sells out.
Yeah, like at some point they're gonna have to run out of color combinations, right? We're gonna get like
never.
They're gonna have to start swapping like materials. They're gonna have to have like the suede on
I'm sorry, we're talking over.
Yes, they're gonna have to start doing multiple materials, like suede on leather or
they are
like,
doing that.
Yeah. I'm
doing like snakeskin, red snakeskin now, and different suedes.
Yeah, well, that Spider-Man release had the stippled art on the
shoe
that
was
too.
To reflect like the comic book halftones.
Yep, the Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, man, like Air Jordan, dude. I don't even know. What do you have like a favorite story about purchasing a pair of Air Jordans, or about like your favorite pair you ever had, or something?
Well, my favorite pair is the Air Jordan 5 in the black metallic silver.
All right.
If you don't know what that is, it's based off of like a fighter jet.
Yeah.
They had the painting on the side, looked like shark's teeth.
Mm-hmm.
and that's where you'll see uh, the jagged graphic on the back.
Yep.
Or I'm sorry, on the side it's silver with black speckle. It has a clear outsole, reflective tongue, clear mesh on the sides, and it's just a beautiful shoe. It has a little toggle too, like for the shoelaces. It's a really cool shoe. And that's my favorite of all time. I just never had a pair. When I had a neighbor friend who had a pair, and I just loved them so much. She let me actually wear them one time to play ball. We would lower the rim, and I felt so awesome just wearing a pair of Jordans because I never had a pair.
Yeah, my first pair were the Olympic nines. I think they were.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Those were my first pair. So I have a special place in my heart for those. My favorites have to be
Olympic nines.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on.
Those were nines, right? Or the eights?
No, the sevens. If the
They're
ones that he
sevens?
played in
Yeah.
'92,
Yeah.
those are the sevens.
Okay, they were sevens. Okay, so the Olympic sevens.
Okay.
Yep, those were my first pair, and so I have a special place in my heart for those.
Coincidentally, is my first pair too that I ever purchased, but it was the playoff pair.
Ah, very cool.
Which with the new school kids call the Raptors because it has purple and red in it.
Yep. I believe Will Smith was rocking those for some of the Fresh Prince episodes as well.
Might have,
yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, no, I love those shoes, and then of course the Concords are probably my favorite pair.
That's right up there with the one. It might be the most beloved pair.
I wore the Concords for my uncle's wedding.
For those that don't know what that is, it's the one that kind of looks like the space shuttle. It's got black patent leather on it.
Yes.
Designed to be worn with tuxedos. Very classy shoe. Everyone dresses them up and dresses them down. I've worn them with a suit, and it looks good. You could pull it off.
I wore it with my tux for prom. I actually had an Air Jordan brand tux, a white and black that matched the shoes. It was badass. Yeah, it had you'd open the coat up, and on the inside, like the little pocket here, it'd have like a Jumpman. It was awesome. They were
Nice.
Yeah, that was.
You need to post pics of that.
Oh, dude, I don't even know how many prom pictures I have. That's a whole story. Prom with a cluster, man. It's a whole other story I'll tell you about sometime when we're not on camera. But my favorite Jordan shoe story were the 13s the last pair other than the last shots. Am I right in my numbers?
The last shot was the 14.
Okay, so the 13 was his last model before the last shot.
That's the 13.
Yep. Okay. So the 13s came out my senior year. Did they? No, maybe the last shots did. The senior year with 99, so it would have been the last shots. Anyway, they were coming out, and I had to have them. And they were coming out right at the wrong time because I was had too many absences. Let's say senior year, we had quite a few senior skip days, and we went to see Star Wars when it released, Star Wars Episode 1, and used my last absence in my first hour class I could have. So I couldn't stand in line to get these Jordans, and I desperately wanted them. So my mother actually took off work and stood in line to get me these Jordans my senior year. But she took it even further, and man, kids at school were marking out. They were like just amazed because not only did she just go pick them up and let me wait till I got home to get them, she showed up after lunch at school in my 4th hour class with the Jordans and interrupted class to deliver Jordans to me so I could lace up my J's. And people were like, holy crap, I wish my mom or dad would bring me Air Jordans to school.
Mom ever.
Oh man, it was.
Oh, I gotta tell your mom when this is all over.
Yeah, she
that is great.
Yeah, she went above and beyond in that situation. And I think they may have been The Last Dance. I mean, you look back to 1999 and memory's a bit hazy on which shoe it was, but I think it might have been The Last Dance because it doesn't make sense for it to be the ones before that because that would have been 98. So, yeah, I'm not sure which Jordan it was at the time. But anyway, yeah. So that's
Did it have the hologram on it?
Well, I mean, I know the difference between the shoes. I just don't remember which shoe it was at the time because I've had, I had every model of Jordan from the last 3 championships, or from his retirement through the last 3 championships. Each year I got at least one pair of Jordans, so I had every model. So I'm just like trying to.
15?
Which ones were the 15? Describe them.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. 15 came out in 2000.
Yeah. Yep.
That one was horrible.
Were those the? Yeah, I don't think I had the 15. I had the ones.
The tongue stuck out to a point. It was based off of like.
Yeah, I didn't have that one.
Some bomber. I don't know.
Yep. No, I had the next pair I got after the last shots were the ones with the removable like cover with the magnet in it. Yeah, I had those. And those I had when I was in college, but
that might be the 16.
Yeah, I think this 15 I probably skipped, but everything up to the last shot I had from retirement, where you had the pair that came out with the stats on the bottom.
Oh, that's the 10.
Yep.
The stats on the bottom.
So I had the 10, 11, 12, 13, and then I skipped the 14 with the weird tongue.
No, the 14's the last shot.
Okay, then I had the 14. I skipped the 15 with the weird tongue, and then I would have went with the 16, which would have been with the removable cover. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, they all kind of blend together. I'm not sure which one I got when, but yeah, I had quite a few of them.
I'm trying to think of some crazy stories. I guess one story I have is when the He Got Games got retroed. It's the black and white 13 that was in that movie, and I struck out at Woodland Mall
here in Grand Rapids, Michigan,
and so I raced down to Premier Skate Shop downtown and waited in that line because they opened up later, I think at like 11, and stood there, met some cool people in line. There was a couple in front of me that were really cool, and another couple behind me that were really good people, true sneakerheads. We just single file line, just, people had their folding chairs. It was really cold that day too. And Reynolds and Sons had a release, which is just a couple blocks away, and people struck out over there, so they started coming over to Premiere, but it got out of hand. There was a bunch of girls that started cutting the line. We were all lined up single file against the wall, against the building, and they went towards the door, and just big clusterfuck of people there, and some shoving started happening, and it got really rowdy. And I had my folding chair in a bag, how it comes in that little sack, inches at the top, so with a little strap, and they started shoving me. I had people shoving me from the side and behind, and I just yelled out, "If you don't stop shoving me, this folding chair is going to turn into a bat." It got bad, and suddenly the cops came.
Man.
The Premier employees called the cops, and they had to stand there and break it up. And no fights actually come out. It was just a lot of shoving and yelling, and that's what started the whole raffle thing over for Premier.
Sounds like freaking Black Friday at Walmart more than a Jordan shoe release. Jeez.
And get this, when I finally, because everyone had each other's back, the original people that were waiting in the nice single file line said, "No, he's next." The couple in front of me were like, because they were letting in 2 at a time or whatever, and they're like, "No, forget her. No, not her. He's next." He was behind me for like 3 hours. Like,
nice.
And so they let me in, and after all that waiting and all that trouble, didn't have my size 10.
See,
we have a 9. They said we have a 9.5 or a 9, and I wasn't going to be that guy to just get that just to get it. Because what if the people behind me, the good people behind me, were a 9 or a 9.5?
Yep.
So I left it, and I just went on my merry way, but empty-handed.
Yeah.
I said, I'm never going to camp again.
I always had that. I always had that problem in high school. Like I wore like a 13, and like the shoe stores would always be like, "Yeah, we get like one of those, so you better be here like first thing in the morning because we get one of those in." I'm like, "Oh my god, like that's ridiculous." They're like, "Yeah, if you want a size 10, we'll have a couple of those, but we only have one 13." I'm like, "Ah, I hate you." So yeah, that was totally a thing. High school, having to stand in line to get a pair of Jordans. Nowadays, you can pre-order, can't you? Like Air Jordan releases.
Um, they do it by raffle. I try my luck on the app, the
Mm-hmm.
sneakers app through Nike,
Okay.
and it's a crapshoot.
Huh.
And there's times where I've won. Um, I won some Travis Scott release. I ended up selling it because it was, I mean, $900 is $900.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
so I could buy other shoes with that or put it towards other things. Or,
Yep.
you just have to pick which be trigger finger on that app right when it turns 10 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you have that thumb recognition, and it's a crapshoot from there because you can see it says you're waiting in line.
Sounds like ordering AEW tickets.
Yeah. Then
Yeah.
you'll get the alert goes, and it shows that big photo. Got them. I don't know if
Nice.
you're familiar with it in the Nike font with the shoes, picture of the shoes on there.
No,
And
I always.
I've had those fist pump moments like Jordan after the shot. That's
Yeah.
how it was with the Travis Scotts
And
because I knew that
most of my
big.
most of my post Jordan era pickups, like post him playing pickups, have been because I knew somebody who worked at the shoe store and was like, "All right, I'll be in at this
That's
time to get
great.
these shoes
Having
in the
that
morning."
plug,
Yeah.
huge.
So now I'm gonna
Exactly.
have to. July comes, man. I'm looking at those black and yellows.
The black and yellow 12s, those
Yes.
are nice.
So I'm like, I'm gonna have to figure out ordering those, or where to go get them, or what the best situation is there. We'll have to see where we're at with the pandemic and see if anything's actually open at that point.
Yeah. To
Yeah.
continue with that story of mine, that couple that was behind me, um, I met up again with the guy Aaron, because he answered to a Craigslist ad I had for some beater fives I was trying to sell for like $40. And then he's like, "Hey, weren't you at that? I think I met you over at a premiere." And I'm like, "Yeah." It was so crazy. He bought my shoes. We met at like Panera Bread or something, and he bought my shoes. And then he goes, "Hey, man, if you ever need anything, Quinn, his girlfriend, said Quinn works at Finish Line now.
Nice.
So if you ever need anything," and so she actually hooked me up with a pair of fire red threes
Very cool.
with her employee discount, and I was so grateful. I'm still in contact. I text them once in a while, or I bump into them. Sometimes walking around downtown or something, and I see them, and they're truly good people and sneakerheads. So what goes around comes around.
Absolutely. Yeah, it seems like the Michael Jordan fan community is a pretty good community because I mean that's how we met too. I mean we met at GameStop when I was like, "Hey, you should pick up this Pro Star DVD for your kid if you want him to watch some Jordan stuff because this cartoon's pretty retro and Jordan and Wayne Gretzky and Bo Jackson are in it." And that's the first time we met, and then we ran into each other again at Buffalo Wild Wings. So yeah, that was it seems like that kind of thing happens in that community, which is pretty cool.
I remember like, who's your favorite player? You had the Bulls jerseys on, guys, Jordan. Like, who's your favorite Bulls player? And you had Kirk Heinrich.
Yes.
You mean Heinrich?
Yeah.
Kirk Heinrich, yeah, he's all right.
Yeah, well, at least I can pronounce Kukoc properly, unlike everybody in that documentary.
Oh my God, they were murdering it. What did Barkley call him? Kukoc or
Yeah,
something?
Kukoc. I'm like, what? Terrible.
Kukoc.
Oh man.
I know. They said it a few times. I was like, "It's Kukoc."
Yep. So speaking of Kukoc, we gotta talk some Dream Team here, man. There was a lot of Dream Team coverage in this. The situation where Jerry Krause said Tony Kukoc is the future of our franchise. to Michael and Scotty. Seems like a poor decision on his part. I mean, when you have the best basketball player in the world looking that forward to the future, it's probably something you shouldn't be doing specifically in front of them. I know building a team out is important, but saying that to your big star is a dumb idea.
Yeah, it just added more fuel to their fire,
Yep.
which is they just totally, I don't know, suffocated him on defense. And
Yeah. Well, I mean, so we'll go into the stats here quick for this game. First game against Croatia, Team USA. Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen had 11 combined steals. The most steals they had combined in any game they ever played together. They also forced Tony to shoot 2 for 11 and have 7 turnovers in that game. They completely shut him down. They were just like in his shirt that entire game. I just rewatched that game. Anybody who is a USA basketball fan, USA Basketball is re-airing the Dream Team games on their webpage, which I will post in the information section of this video. But they already have, I think, 3 games up, and they're doing it every Thursday with new commentary. The key about watching these, though, is the fact that the video is the original video, so it's like the highest quality possible. It's not broadcast video like that people have that you can find online. This is the original feed from the cameras that they're being able to commentate over. So it's brand new. It's the highest quality video you're going to get from footage that old. And we just watched the Croatia game, and man, like Scotty and Michael were just in Tony's shirt. There were points where, like, a couple times where Tony had somebody else on him, like due to a switch, and he took the guy off the dribble and went to the hoop, and Michael just swooped in from the wing and blocks his shot, like from nowhere, like just because it's Tony, I better go over there and block this real quick. He got by somebody. Like, it was crazy. It was crazy. Like, I cannot overstate how just smothering the defense Michael and Scotty performed on Tony in that game was. Michael was quoted as saying, "We weren't playing Tony Kukoc, we were playing Jerry Krause in a Croatia jersey." And I mean, I don't think there's any better way to say that.
Pippen would have been a well, I don't know, a schmedium or something in that Croatia jersey. He was always ripping on Krause.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and you got to think Scotty's got a reason to be upset.
Yeah.
We seen in the previous episode that he's highly underpaid. He was locked in that long-term contract. Jerry Krause is talking about this guy being the future of the franchise and underpaying Scotty. And then if we move forward, even when Tony came to the team, 4 out of the 5 seasons Tony Kukoc with the Chicago Bull alongside Scottie Pippen, Tony Kukoc was paid more than Scottie Pippen. His rookie season, he had a lower pay than what Scottie did. But after that, man, Tony Kukoc was paid more than Scottie for the next 4 seasons.
Wow.
Yeah, and that says something to Jerry Krause's lack of interest of paying. And I mean, you got to put a bit of that on Jerry Reinsdorf as well.
Yes, I was just about to say that.
I mean, he should really have demanded some new contract negotiations and trying to maybe lock Pippen in for a couple more years, renegotiate, get a couple more years on that contract, and up his pay. Because then when they traded him, they would have got more for that trade. When they traded him off to Houston, they could have got more back for him, because that was in his final season when they traded him to Houston, I believe, of his contract. So they got a bunch of scrubs back, where if he had 3 years left on that contract, I think more teams would have been interested in bringing in a Scotty. I think they could have got more back for him from other contending teams, but they didn't think ahead in that regard. Apparently, Jerry Krause was too busy whining and dining Tony Kukoc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tony is one of my favorite players, though. I've actually contemplated picking up his jersey.
Well, I mean, and he said, if you look at interviews Tony Kukoc had in the past, he mentioned that even though, Scotty and Michael were so upset and played him the way they did in their first meeting, and even though Scotty was underpaid, and Tony was paid more than him. Scotty did more for helping him develop than anybody else, and Scotty was just a complete class act. And that he credits Scottie Pippen for his ability to play in the NBA and play the NBA style game as well as he did. So I mean that's a lot to say about the kind of person Scottie Pippen is, and his willingness to play and do things to make his team better.
Except minus the 1.8 seconds of shame.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you think he high-fived Tony after he made that shot?
I think he was happy Tony made the shot. I think it was, once again, a situation where you have management not paying him enough, talking about some other guy being the future of the franchise, and then the other guy getting this opportunity to hit the game-winning shot and you not be. I mean, it feels like almost like it's the breaking point of stuff piling on. And I get that. I can see that, if you look back retrospectively at all the things that led up to that point, I could see him being upset, but, he definitely should have handled it better. But, hey, is what it is. If Tony says that, Scotty is the guy who did the most for him, and helped him the most, then I tend to believe that.
Sure.
Yeah. So what did you think of this original Dream Team? I know the debate has come up that the Redeem Team, LeBron's team is what people like to call it, would beat the Dream Team if they played against each other. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I'm so old school. I'm not that biased towards that golden era with people in them.
I think it'd be a close game.
To be Christian Laettner on that team. How he got that, I don't know.
The way he got it was the Olympic Committee decided that it was going to be 11 NBA players and one college player, and the college player would be the player of the year. And Christian Laettner won that achievement. So that's how he made it to that team. That's just kind of how it is. And I mean, he didn't do terrible. I mean, there are all-star players on that team who had games where they only scored 3 or 4 points. And Christian Laettner, pretty much regularly scored 2 to 6 points a game. I mean, he didn't play terrible. It's not like he went every game having 0 points or had a bunch of turnovers. I mean, he did fine. I mean,
the Judd Bushler role in that team.
Yeah. Yep. Yes.
The garbage time, they just throw him in there. Go ahead.
Yep. Exactly.
Threes, make a few shots.
Yep. Scotty played a whole lot of point guard on that USA team. And that's where I think the Redeem Team versus the Dream Team would be a close contest, is because for a large portion of the Dream Team's play, they didn't even have a point guard. Magic twisted his knee, I think, in the second game, and going in, Stockton was injured, and then I believe in game 3, Larry Bird was his last game ever. So I mean, you got 3 guys, you got 2 point guards and a small forward who are injured on a 12-man team. You're down to 9 guys, and you don't have any point guards.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think as great of a defender as Scottie Pippen is, I think him guarding Chris Paul, him guarding the smaller point guards might be a bit of a stretch for him. Those guys are really fast.
Even Michael had problems with the small, quick point guards.
Yep. So I mean, I don't know who you put. I mean, your guards you had then were Jordan at guard and Drexler at guard. You had Pippen playing the point. I don't know who you have, who you put guarding these small guys who are really fast. And I think that's where the Redeem Team would have an advantage. One thing people don't remember. So here's something nobody remembers. Dream Team, best player on the Dream Team, player who won all the awards was Charles Barkley. He was the leading scorer for the Dream Team. Best player on the Redeem Team was Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony, I think, averaged a double-double, and was the only USA player to be on the all-world team. So that's saying something too. It wasn't LeBron. So everybody who wants to make this a LeBron Michael thing, the Redeem Team versus the Dream Team, I don't think it would play into that. Because those guys at those times weren't the top player on their team, or weren't playing as the top player on their team. They weren't the number one go-to. So
LeBron is, or wait, didn't they win bronze?
yeah, LeBron when he was coming out of college or a rookie, they took the bronze that year. Yeah, the first time LeBron was there, they took bronze, but the Redeem Team took gold. Went undefeated.
That's right.
Yeah, but it's a debate people like to have, and I don't know. I think there's a lot to take into that, and I don't think it's a real Jordan versus LeBron debate like people like to make it. I think it's more of a everybody else in that team, and how people play. The game has changed so much now. You watch Michael Jordan. The majority of Michael's shots came from the mid range. Like he was a mid-range jump shooter. Now guys like pull up for mid-ranges, and they might get pulled out by their coach. It's like you just don't do that. You go to the hoop where you shoot a three.
Yep.
So, but yeah. So anyway, what did you think of? I mean, so we got Michael Jordan on the Dream Team. There's a lot of talk about Isaiah Thomas, and about him not being there and it being Michael's fault. How do you feel about that?
After, I've always heard the rumors too that it was because of Michael, but after watching that episode, it made me, it's not just Michael. Everyone else hated him.
Well, I mentioned this to you.
Maybe they don't hate him, but they dislike him.
Well,
maybe they felt he wasn't needed. But after those injuries, you think, hey, Isaiah would have been a nice ad.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, exactly. But I did mention to you earlier this week. I did some research into the Dream Team and some of the players. And Larry Bird was one of those guys who was not an Isaiah fan. He was not a fan of the Pistons at all. They had their scrapes. He absolutely hated Bill Laimbeer, to the point where when Bill Laimbeer didn't make the All-Star team one year, Larry Bird was quoted when he was asked about it. He said, well, that's good. Because then when Bill walks in the room and says, hey, Larry, I don't have to respond with, fuck you, Bill. So there's definitely some negative feelings between Larry and Detroit players as well. And I mean, Isaiah and Dumars got, the Dream Team too. They were part of that. Isaiah was injured and couldn't play, but he was selected for Dream Team 2. So, I mean, he got his opportunity. But I don't know how well he would gel with those guys when you have Michael and Larry, and then to a point Magic having some pretty bad feelings towards the guy.
I'm not an Isaiah fan.
Meanwhile, Chuck Daly and Jordan are like besties. All that golf during the Olympics, those guys became close and fast friends.
Who?
Jordan and Daly.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Golfing every day before practice. So the documentary takes us from the Olympic stuff, and they also covered the Bulls' second championship to a point. I mean, they kind of sped through both the second and third championship. They really focused on.
I mean, everyone's already getting a little. I'm like, I thought this was about the Bulls and not Michael Jordan, and so I think they're kind of skimming through these. There's still other championships.
What all do you say about the second championship? I mean, he played against Clyde. I mean, that Blazer team was really good, and they had some really good players, but it wasn't. I mean, they didn't have major double overtime games or anything crazy. There wasn't a whole lot of controversy involved in that series. You had they covered Jordan and the shrug, so that was covered. The big 3-point game. The funny thing about that is today's fans can go back and watch that and be like, "What's the big deal?"
Yeah,
like friggin' Steph Curry does this every game. It's like nobody, but
That was
like,
a big deal.
yeah, that was a record, man. That was the NBA Finals record. So that is an important point that they did touch on. But then they kind of jumped. They jumped and talked more about New York, which we can talk all about the Knicks.
That could be a whole podcast in itself.
Yeah.
I hate that team, and for them to, I mean, that just shows too. Like, even though Michael's involved in this,
mm-hmm.
they still are putting this so-called, the Starks dunk.
Yep.
And like they always say it, John Starks dunked on Michael Jordan and
mm-hmm.
Horace Grant. And it's really like, if you just look at certain photos of the angle of it,
mm-hmm.
it does look like that. But to me, I don't think he like dunked on them.
Nah, I think Jordan came from the offside to help. So I mean, yeah, Jordan was playing opposite, I think, Starks, and came across the court to try to help. So I mean, he definitely didn't dunk on Jordan.
He was coming over for help.
Yep.
And when he went baseline, he was already in the air. And I don't know, it wasn't even that close to him. But people are saying if you jump, then you got dunked on. I'm like, okay. I don't think getting dunked on is Jordan over Ewing, Pippen over Ewing when he walked on top of him. That's getting dunked on.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
Yeah, I completely agree. And a lot of people were talking about, John Starks last night and, oh man, I had that poster of John Starks dunking on Jordan, man. The Knicks are so much better than the Bulls, stuff like that. And I just trolled all of them when I just kept posting, yeah, but did you have this basketball card? And it's the one of Starks in the Bulls jersey.
Oh.
I'm like, yep, I will troll all of you.
Just shudder, man.
Nobody came to this documentary to hear about John Starks, Sue Bird.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I discolated my finger. I don't know. He couldn't even pronounce dislocated.
Mm-hmm.
It's like discolated.
Yeah. I did appreciate Charles Oakley when interviewed rocking a Air Jordan t-shirt. I thought that was pretty funny.
I mean, that's like one of his best friends.
Yeah. Yep.
Why not? He probably gets the shit for free.
Yep.
I'll just sending him stuff.
Yeah, so I was all like, on Twitter, I was like, man, that's cool. Oakley's rocking a Jordan shirt. And then I got a bunch of people like, did you know that Charles Oakley played for the Bulls? And I'm like, yeah. Did you know that John Starks played for the Bulls? People's mind were blown, man. They just were like, what?
Like 1 week or 2 weeks, something ridiculous.
Yes.
He hated it.
Yep. Well, I mean, the fans booed him right out of the city. I mean,
yeah. Is there a YouTube vid? I want to pull that up. I would love to see that.
People were paying to go to games to boo John Starks at that time. I mean, it was Bulls. I'm sure Bulls seen a boost in ticket sales when they signed him of just people who wanted to boo him. Oh man, but yeah, those Knicks teams were tough, man. I remember when the
Very
game.
physical.
Yeah, I remember when it went to a game 7, and I was like, "What? Like this is terrible!" And I was just irate. I'm like call a foul for the love of God, and just being a teenager at the time and just only having been a Bulls fan for the third year. So I was a Bulls fan for 3 years and watching this, I'm like, this is just like the Pistons. I thought we dealt with this garbage, So yeah, I think they did a pretty good job covering it in this documentary though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we get to some other talk about Jordan's gambling. Do you believe the rumor that, because they didn't cover it in the documentary, and people were kind of waiting for them to see if they were going to cover the rumor. But the rumor was that Michael Jordan was suspended for gambling for a year, and that is why he went off to play baseball.
I've heard that,
yeah,
and I don't believe it.
I don't either, and I'll explain why I don't believe it. I don't believe it because these allegations of like gambling stuff started during that Knicks series. Persisted through the playoffs being talked about through the finals. and there was no suspension in the Eastern Conference Finals or the NBA Finals. If you have a player who is suspected of gambling on their sport illegally, your league does not allow that player to win the Eastern Conference Championship and then the NBA Championship. It would just be a giant disaster if it came out that the league knew about it and allowed this person to play through 2 playoff series and win a world championship without doing anything. It would be a huge PR nightmare that the NBA would not do. I mean, we've seen guys suspended for far less. And, you know, with the Pete Rose situation having actually been a thing at this point, and him not being allowed in the Baseball Hall of Fame, I think the NBA wouldn't have taken that chance with Michael if Michael had actually been at, you know, even slightly, you know, they even been slightly concerned that Michael had somehow like bet on NBA games.
They would have lost millions of dollars. Yeah. It wasn't happening.
Yep.
I'm not saying that's, I don't know. There's a bunch of conspiracy theories, but I don't think.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it doesn't really play either. Jordan came back halfway through the next season. I mean, like they were going to suspend him for a year and a half. Like, I mean, that doesn't make sense. You know, nothing that really kind of is put out there as far as this rumor really plays with how the NBA would operate. You know, just logically. So I don't believe it either. Do you think, now here's the thing. Do you think Michael is a little bit hypocritical when it comes to what he said about Dennis needing a vacation to go to Vegas during the season when Michael and his dad went to Atlantic City during the playoffs?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I think if you asked Michael, just like I asked you that, he might say, all right, yeah, I can see how that would, you know, that could be the case. Or he could see, I could see what you're saying. I think it's at least something he would recognize, because it was a big deal then. People lost their minds about it, right? And he had that experience. So when Dennis asked for some time to go to Vegas, Jordan theoretically should have been like, all right, I know how this is. I needed a break the one night and people lost their minds. Dennis needed a couple days. People lost their minds. You know, maybe he should have been a little more supportive of him. On the flip side, he did go collect him from Vegas. So
I think he was supportive.
I don't know. He said in the past episode that like wait, he gets a vacation. It'd be nice if I ever got a vacation. You know, I don't ever get to ask for a vacation. So he kind of sounded a bit judgmental. Even still on Michael's part, as far as Dennis saying he needed a few days. You know, and I just think looking back, the comparison of them is somewhat similar.
I think he was just supportive of it, and I just think Michael's just too big of a competitor to like even take a vacation. You know, I don't know.
I still think Jordan, if we moved the 90s, right, that 90s era NBA to today, with and everything else in the world's the way it is now, but you took the 90s era of basketball and replaced it with, you know, what we have now, I think Michael Jordan would be one of these like rich celebrities who would be buying an island. I really do. Like hearing him talk about just like being swarmed by people all the time. You know, I see him being one of those guys. What's that?
He doesn't own one yet?
I don't think so. I think he's living in North Carolina. So I mean, that's there's not a whole lot of islands in North Carolina that I'm aware of. But
I mean, for his like getaways, could have like his own little islands.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If I had that money, I would have an island I would have that full indoor basketball court and everything put on it. So in the summer, you could fly the guys out you want to play with and have them come out there. I'd have enough room on the island to have another house for like family members, so family members can come out and play. Have a helipad so you can land a helicopter on it to get people to the island, and that's where I would spend the off season, just to avoid being around people all the time. And being a golfer, he could put his own golf course on that island. He could have everything he needs in one place and not have to be swarmed by people all the time. Fly in whoever wants to do an interview, fly in that one or two people who he wants to do an interview with, have Ahmad Rashad and Summer Sanders come out and interview him for what would that show? NBA
Inside
Stuff. That's it. Yes. So yeah, I mean, I think in today's, when all these celebrities talk about buying islands and having these big resort homes and stuff, I think Jordan would probably have done more of that. But he spent a lot of he spent the one summer in LA shooting Space Jam. I'm like, really, LA? Like that's not away from people. There's more people there than there is in Chicago. So yeah. Do you think we're going to hear anything about baseball on the upcoming episodes?
Baseball?
Yeah.
Him playing for the Barons?
Yep. How much do you think they're going to touch on that? Because I think that plays a lot into his comeback.
I think they'll play a little bit about it.
Mm-hmm. There's already a really good 30 for 30. Michael Jordan Rides the Bus. I highly recommend people checking it out. It really talks about his time in baseball, his time on the minor leagues, and how it helped him deal with both his father's death and kind of get back to just enjoying athletics and not being all about like the making money and not being all about, winning championships, but just enjoying his time doing something. And I think that played a whole lot into the next three titles. But yeah.
Kind of reinvigorated him.
Yep.
His love for the game.
Absolutely. So we got the three-peat. They talked about that. Actually, we should probably talk about the politics. There was some politics talk on Last Dance.
Politics.
Yeah. So and we talked a little bit about this on the phone. You have family in Chicago. How much did you hear at all about this situation from anybody when it was going on?
No.
See, neither did I. With the gambling thing here in Grand Rapids Press covered it. ESPN covered it. It was the fledgling internet at the time. You go onto like Netscape Navigator or AOL, and you'd see like articles about Michael Jordan's. Does Michael Jordan have a gambling problem? That was a thing that was, readily available in the news cycle. This whole situation with North Carolina and him not willing to support a Democrat candidate for governor, the first African-American candidate, and saying to, Michael or Scotty and Horace on the bus that Republicans buy shoes too. I had not heard that until tonight, until that Last Dance episode. And I have watched a ton of Bull stuff. I have read number of Jordan books, number of Chicago Bulls books. I have never heard that story until the last evening. So I personally feel like this may have been talked about a lot in North Carolina. I'm sure it was. And it may have been talked about some in Chicago because Chicago being a big market that Michael played in, it may have made papers there. I don't think it was as big of a national news thing as what they seem to have made it in this last episode.
I don't remember anything about it. Only from what I've read was just the basic, how he steers away from political views and standpoints. That's all I heard. But
yep. And that's the same. That's exactly what I heard, that he doesn't tend to come out in favor or against any politics. He tries to stay out of the political sphere. And I don't know if I can blame him, I have seen now in the last few years specifically, we've seen Susan Sarandon blamed for for Donald Trump being president because she was a Bernie Sanders supporter and not a Hillary supporter, which is ludicrous. Recently now with this whole Joe Biden sex allegation thing where like he sexually assaulted someone who worked for him. With that, now we're getting Alyssa Milano. Everybody's calling out Melissa Milano because she says she doesn't believe it, but she was a big supporter of Me Too. So you have these celebrities who came out in support of a stance and are then crucified for it when it's not their fault, whether this politician, wins or loses. It's not Alyssa Milano's fault whether or not, Joe Biden did some stuff back in the day that he shouldn't have done. You can't really hold the celebrity accountable, and it seems like Michael may have thought this out better than some of the people who have gotten involved in politics who are celebrities because he didn't want to put himself in that position, and I can't blame him, man. I wouldn't want to be put in that position either. There's enough in the age of the internet now. There's enough ability for people to call you out and give you just all kinds of stress and grief over a Twitter or Facebook post about, Michael Jordan being better than LeBron. Something as simple as that. So, I mean, I wouldn't want to put myself in that situation if I was in the public eye. Everybody's got their choice in that, it's just like, who you vote for is your choice, just because you have money or you're famous, you still don't owe anybody anything. But that's kind of how I felt about that whole thing. I think personally, I would have preferred had they talked more about either the time on the Dream Team or talked a little bit more about the championship runs, but and spent time on that rather than the political thing.
I would have liked to see a little more on Kobe. Actually,
Yeah,
a Kobe episode, and I thought there could have been just a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I seen. Like last week, they were promoting this as like the Dream Team episode. So I went out of my way to dig out a lot of the USA stuff. I got the McDonald cups here. I got the jacket and shirt behind me. Wearing the jersey. But they didn't really focus a whole lot on the Dream Team. And then just before the show went on air last night, they mentioned Kobe Bryant and said there were going to be a lot about Kobe on the episode. And they kind of opened up with a little bit about Kobe and then just kind of went away from it. And I think both of those things I would have preferred to see more than the focus on the political race that Jordan legitimately had nothing to do with because he wouldn't support somebody. Like, it's like, hey, we're going to tell you about how Michael Jordan wouldn't do something. Okay. Like, I mean, I don't need to know what he didn't do. I want to know what he did do in his career. I want to know what other players did think of him, not what he didn't do. I mean, he didn't play in the baseball All-Star game. You want to talk about the baseball All-Star game? I mean, he didn't make the team. You want to talk about it? I mean, it shouldn't be part of the program.
Yeah, that's me. I could have used a few more minutes with some Kobe content. Since
you brought that up, what did you think about what Kobe had to say?
Oh, I thought it was amazing. I mean, he's definitely, recognizing the roots, where it all came from. That's total respect right there.
Yep. I mean, when he said that he wouldn't have 5 championships if not for Michael and what Michael, did for him and how he helped him, that was saying a lot. And something else I have noticed during this Last Dance thing, which just boggles my mind, being that it's been what, a month, 2 months? How long? When did the helicopter accident happen? Was that January? February?
I already forgot, but
yeah, it's only been a couple months.
Yeah.
And when it happened, man, like the entire world, was like, oh my God, like even people who were not necessarily Kobe fans, were just kind of devastated by that news. And here we are now with the Jordan documentary going on, and you have a lot of these LeBron fans who are desperate to put LeBron on this pedestal above Michael. And I have seen tweets and Facebook posts of the 2 greatest players in NBA history, and it's LeBron and Magic. I've seen people, saying the best two Lakers, LeBron and Magic, and I'm like, guys, like it was just a couple months ago, you guys were losing your mind saying Kobe was the best player ever, like the Laker fans. It shocked me that there are so many Laker fans out there who seem to have already, discounted Kobe at this point in their attempt to make LeBron look bigger and better. Um, it's kind of shocking. But yeah, yeah, it is a shame. I think we did get to see a little bit of Kobe and Michael play each other. We've seen them play for one season when Jordan was in Chicago, and then he had 2 seasons in Washington.
Yep.
So we got a few games, a couple All-Star games. I will never forgive Kobe for hitting that shot to against Jordan and the East All-Star team and making that game go to overtime when Jordan could have had the last shot and won it and had it been a classic moment. But with that said, he's still like one of the all-time greats. And I did very much enjoy what he had to say. But they kind of closed things out. They talked about the third championship run. Again, the third finals against Charles Barkley and the Suns, which, in my opinion, is the best team the Bulls played in their 6 championships. I mean, did that sound accurate to you?
I don't know. I've never really thought about it. Like, who was out of all those teams, who was the best teams?
Because I mean, the Lakers had injuries to both James Worthy and Byron Scott, so they had key players injured during the finals, and even then they were an older team. And then you had the Blazers, which like we said before, were a really good team, but they were not on the level of Chicago. You had the Seattle SuperSonics, which was the only year the Sonics ever made it to the finals. They weren't a perennial, Western Conference Finals and NBA Finals team. And then you had the Jazz twice, which, I mean, those Jazz teams had an older Karl Malone, an older John Stockton, older Jeff Hornacek. There were a lot of guys who a few years earlier probably would have had a better chance against the Bulls. Meanwhile, that Suns team had a MVP Charles Barkley, coming off winning all the awards for the Olympics as well. You had Dan Marley, one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA at the time, which was saying something because it wasn't like it is today. And then you had one of the better point guards in the league, a top 5 point guard in Kevin Johnson. And they had a good young cast of players, both starting and coming off the bench, who could help them out. I just feel like they're probably the best team that the Bulls played in the finals.
I could see that.
Yeah. So, I mean, and they said it was destiny. I mean, Charles Barkley was quoted that they were destined to win. It was God chose them to win the NBA championship that year. Those were things he was saying going into this series. So, it was an interesting fight, man. And man, they played really good in Chicago as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did they pick up 1 or 2 in Chicago to start?
I want to say.
I almost want to say it with 2. I
It was
think yeah. So yeah, I mean that's impressive, and the Bulls kind of had to fight from behind there in that series. But yeah,
for me, I think the Knicks were probably the toughest team for them to face, personally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that wouldn't be in the finals though. That would be in the Eastern Conference Finals. But yeah, I would agree with that. I think the Knicks and then the Pacers during the second championship series were also a really tough one that took them to 7 games.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm sure they'll cover that here in a future episode. The Pacer feud with Reggie and Rick Smits.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yep. But yeah, so anyway, the Bulls managed to pull that one off with a John Paxson 3-pointer, man. I mean,
Pax was, like Michael said, Pax was a heartbreaker.
Yep. And that was, no matter how bad he has been as a general manager, we got to remember that he did hit that three, clutch 3-pointer. And then coming back the other way, Horace Grant with a clutch block on KJ.
Block.
Yep. So definitely a team, teamwork prevailed there with and even though I think Michael Jordan scored the last 12 points or something, like all the points in the fourth quarter, except for I think there was one basket in the fourth quarter, but up until that point he was the only one to score. Yeah, so I mean, Michael really carried it, but then in crunch time, man, the whole team came out and did their job defensively, and of course Pax hit that three. So
every Bull touched the ball on that play.
Yep. And I mean that's something where once again you got to look at. Everybody talks about LeBron being such a great scorer and such a great passer, but I don't know how many times in his championship runs you've seen big plays where everybody touched the ball. It seemed like there was a lot of isolation, and a lot of isolation followed by LeBron making one pass, stuff of that nature. The Bulls definitely had with that triangle offense. It was, highly based on getting everybody involved. But yeah. So what do we think? How much time do we think they're gonna devote coming up here to the bench players on the Bulls? We've seen them focus on Scotty. We've seen them focus on Dennis, Phil. Michael's got a lot of coverage. There was quite a bit of Tony Kukoc, but do we think there's going to be a lot more coverage of some of these other guys? Horace Grant, B.J. Armstrong, Steve Kerr. Do we think we're gonna see focus on them coming up?
Yeah, they're going to be talking about Steve Kerr, especially because of the little scrap him and Michael had. So that'll be talked about for sure. And I want to say they would talk about Scott Burrell more.
I would hope they talk about BJ, specifically being that BJ then ran his mouth when he left the team and was playing for the Hornets.
Right.
Yeah.
Probably going to get brought up too, I think.
Yep. I did think it was a bit unfair. It seemed like they were blaming Horace for the Jordan rules book pretty heavily.
He's denying it, but
I think I would assume that it's coming from multiple sources. Covering professional wrestling the way we do here, you get a lot of leaks from that as well, from inside these companies where they find out what's going to happen and what their plans are, or who's going to be released and things of that nature. And everybody, all these people have different sources, who all these news agencies have different sources. So I would assume that they were probably somebody in security on the Bulls, somebody probably who worked in the front office, somebody who probably did the laundry, somebody probably in the coaching staff. They probably had a number of different people within the organization that would hear things and then report it to them. And I'm assuming that's probably where he got a lot of this, is from multiple sources within the organization. It just seems likely that it would come from more than one source. Horace could be one of them, but it tends to be multiple sources for that kind of thing. Just because that also makes you more credible. If you have 4 sources telling you the same thing, you're more likely to print it than one guy coming to you and saying something, But
sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think we covered things pretty well today. By the way, I do dig the shirt, man. That the Jordan that's on it not being a logo but actually being Jordan. I dig that the most. That's very cool.
The photo shoot, man. Those episodes.
Absolutely. So yeah.
Right there.
Very, very cool. Yeah, and we'll be doing this again. Go ahead.
One thing you talk about too is the soundtrack.
Oh my God.
Soundtrack. Golden era hip hop throughout. Oh man.
Yeah, I tweeted at ESPN. I was like, ESPN, that Last Dance soundtrack, and with a gif of a standing ovation. And I'm like, dude, applaud. You guys did they did a fantastic job with that soundtrack. Outkast was in it. Oh man. I'm looking forward to seeing what other songs are played throughout the rest of it, because it was so good. I really hope they release that. What I
I
would
think my friend sent me a link. There's already something on Spotify.
is there. See, what I would love if they would release like a box set where it included the entire series on Blu-ray and then like a CD of like the soundtrack, or 2 CDs of the soundtrack. I'd buy something like that, a commemorative like box set with like that stuff in it. I'd be all about that. The Chicago Tribune has some cool stuff right now. They have some really cool Chicago Bulls stuff, including all the newspaper prints from the championship runs and from the history of the team, all in like a hardcover book, which I
Nice.
was like, that's pretty cool.
I have one that's laminated.
Yeah,
It's the Pete one,
nice.
the
Yeah,
Chicago Tribune.
they have posters and as well like full size posters like with like the newspaper like matted and stuff. They have like these framed like championship banners and like these gold coins and things, which I don't understand why anybody would want to buy that, but I mean, I guess if that's your thing. I don't get it. It doesn't have any relevance to me. I'm like, all right, you printed up some coins with some Bulls heads on them and put the banners on there, but I'd rather had them like put like release a championship trophy or something. I mean,
People buy the craziest. I mean, when you have Chicago Bulls toilet seats and stuff, that's
yep. Now we didn't talk. We should definitely talk about this. Did you have the McDonald's stuff during that Dream Team era?
I had, you know, I couldn't find any of my Dream Team cups, but I do have other McDonald's tumblers, and I still use them to this day.
Nice.
I have in the back then it was like quality tumblers at dishwasher safe,
Mm,
and so I have a few of those. I think I gave you a couple too that I had doubles of.
I don't
Some
know.
jo-
Maybe possibly.
yeah, so it's the McDonald's ones.
Hmm. Yeah,
But
I have a
I don't eat Dream Team ones, and I think they go for a pretty penny on eBay right now for like
I'm
the full
sure.
set.
I'm sure. Did you get like they had like collector cards too? They had Dream Team NBA hoops cards that came in like the Happy Meal or something, or like with a Big Mac. I can't remember what it came with, but they did that. For a while there, they were doing just NBA hoops trading cards that were like just regular NBA trading cards, and you get like your Michael Jordan and your like your big stars in it. Did you ever get any of that stuff growing up?
I did. I got the collector cards from McDonald's.
Nice.
So and then I do have. I think I had some of the Dream Team cards too.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
And
those Skybox, dude. Those Skybox Dream Team cards. Do you remember those?
oh yeah,
Oh, dude, those were dope, man. With the crazy colors and stuff in the background, it was almost like a PNG cutout of like the player, and then they like photoshopped in all kind of crazy like '90s colors and shapes behind them. I still love those cards. I mean, one of them's in our graphic for this episode, so people can see the 3 cards that make the Barcelona full team in that. But no, I love those. I still have those in a box. Going through stuff, finding things for this series to put out on the table has been really, really nostalgic for me. Yeah, Jordan and I went through a box and found all kind of stuff that I forgot they even did. Like I forgot McDonald's did Dennis Rodman cups. I think it was a Chicago
yeah, my
exclusive.
hero would change color, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
With that's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, I have 2 of them, and I was like,
Have that cup.
I have 2. I have 2 different Rodman cups from
There's two
McDonald's.
different ones.
Yep.
Oh, I'd like to have one of those.
I was like, man, I forgot they made these, and I got the Looney Tune cups with Michael Jordan on them. I got the regular Jordan cups that they did, the Olympic ones. I'm like, oh, jeez, I didn't realize I had all these back here. Found a bunch of like Star Wars like Slurpee cups and stuff in a box. I'm like, oh man, going through the storage has been beneficial to my nostalgia. But
Nice.
yeah. So anyway, I think we covered everything as far as this week's show. You know, if you guys enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and dunk on that bell button from the free throw line. We need that stuff, man. It helps our videos tremendously.
On
And
that button.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, we'll be back next week with more. So for myself, JR, we'll see you guys later. Peace out.
Peace.